ladies and gentlemen. Our today's guest is somebody that I've always looked up to for several years. I remember reading one of his books called How Coaching Works, almost like what, 10 years back? And that book gave me a clear cut understanding of the history of coaching, how it all began in early 1970s and 80s, and what Sir John Whitmore came up with, and what happened in the UK and what happened in the US when Thomas Leonard came forward. And he's one of the pioneers. Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph O'Connor is one of the best known and respected coaches and trainers of coaching in the world. He's the co-founder of the International Coaching Community, which he started in the year 2000. He's the author of over 17 books translated into 30 languages, selling over 500,000 books worldwide. One of the books that you'll fall in love with is where he talks about the neuroscience of coaching. And he talks about the relevance of coaching, the relevance of neuroscience in the in coaching, right? So a few of the books that I'm sure you would have read about is Coaching with NLP, How Coaching Works, and recently that he has published is Coaching the Brain. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme that we're going to talk about today is coaching the brain.
It's neuroplasticity. It's the ability of the brain to change itself in response to experience.
Yeah.
Therefore, we maybe should be a little bit more careful about the experience that we allow ourselves to have. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to be really careful every single minute of the day, but remember that attentive repetition builds changed connections in the brain, which means you've learned something. And you don't want to learn that you're stupid, or you don't want to learn that you're no good. You want to learn good things about yourself and good things to do. So that's what you want to practice. And that's the story. You know, if you practice a story and a mental model about how I'm so stupid, I'll never get anywhere, that's what's going to get laid down. That's what the brain will go in default, and that's what will affect your life. And of course, it's not true because it's just an idea.
Beautiful. And you use the word attentive attention, right? Now, if we can bring attentive attention to the awareness that we speak about coaching, I think that's going to be magical, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, what builds neuroplasticity in the brain? Repetition. We know that, but a certain type of repetition. It's got to be done with attention. You know, I knew back years ago that if I just practiced the guitar, you know, not paying much attention to anything, it really wouldn't have very much effect. If I, even a couple of hours, if I did just 20 minutes of really focused practice, paying attention, that is going to really make a difference.
Beautiful.
So it's about not just repetition, it's about paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I catch myself out many times now, of course, trying to multitask, even though I know intellectually that multitasking will ensure that I do everything that I'm trying to do much worse than I would if I paid attention to any one thing. Yeah. And the brain doesn't do multitasking. The brain does one thing at a time.
At a time, yeah.
So, you know, that's what's important. It's not just repetition, it's repetition with attention.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's always a pleasure interacting with you. Always, there's so much to learn from you. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation to address the coaching community.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for inviting me.